Even the most loved, the most popular, and some of the biggest store chains in America are not immune to the avalanche that is bringing countless retailers to the ground in the past few years. The decay of the retail industry is one of the most devastating events the U.S. economy has been facing in the last decade. Each store closure means that thousands of jobs can disappear overnight, and also suggest that even the nation's most well-established companies can literally die before our eyes from one moment to the other. The pace at which everything is taking place is truly alarming. And the truth is that no one can tell with 100% certainty whether or not the next time we visit our local store is going to be the last. That's why in today's video, we have compiled 25 store chains that are at risk of disappearing for good from our economic landscape. But before moving on, please support our work with a thumbs up in this video and don't forget to subscribe. Without further ado, let's check this list. 1. Macys. In the past couple of years, beloved department store Macys closed 125 stores and cut over 2,000 jobs to weather the storm brought on by COVID-19. But even before that, things were going from bad to worse for the retail chain, which closed 68 stores in 2019 and slashed over 10,800 jobs right before the holiday season. Industry analysts argue that the company is running out of ways to reinvent itself amid such a competitive environment. Green Street Advisors estimated that about 40% of U.S. department stores had closed since 2016. And Macys' ongoing decline is just a reflection of a larger trend that's likely to continue to victimize similar brands in the years to come. 2. Fry's Electronics. The big box chain is amongst the ones saying their last goodbyes. After almost 36 years in business, Fry's Electronics tried everything to survive the retail carnage and even launched an online store. The company was founded in Silicon Valley in 1985 and offered software, hardware and electronics, toys, cosmetics, and home appliances. After a rocky couple of years, changes in the retail industry and the challenges posed by supply chain disruptions, Fry's Electronics decided to shut down its online store completely, and it's now closing its remaining 31 stores across 9 states. 3. Stock & Field. The sporting goods store, which also carried a variety of outdoor apparel and gear, including self-defense and fishing equipment, as well as toys, pet food, and plant bulbs and seeds, is about to disappear forever from America's economic scenario. Its last 12 locations are holding some major liquidation sales as the chain filed for bankruptcy. After more than 55 years, Stock & Field is closing its doors at all locations, the company announced on its website. There have been many challenges this year, and Stock & Field is not immune to them. 4. Stage Stores. Stage is well known for locating in the country seat of America's small towns. Rural America needed access to affordable clothing and department stores with multiple categories of product lines. As Stage Stores matured, the chain was finally finding its place in retailing as an off-price discount apparel store. But worsening economic conditions threw the retailer into disarray, and the company was forced to file for bankruptcy, and now all 738 of its stores are now going through liquidation. 5. Francescas. Women's clothing and accessories brand Francescas started the year with 140 stores less than it did in 2021. In the first quarter, it disclosed plans to close another 97 locations, and a few months later, the company filed for bankruptcy. New court documents have since suggested that around 275 stores will close in total. The toll may continue to grow as the apparel sector experiences a consumer recession. 6. Family Video. The movie rental chain outlasted even its biggest competitor, Blockbuster, but as streaming services got more and more popular, family video stores are seeing their last days. Last year, It had already closed almost half of its stores, and in July 2022, it announced that it would shut down all of its remaining locations. The chain noted in a press release that it couldn't compete with the convenient streaming service provided, especially at a time when the cost of living is going through the roof and it's becoming harder to justify getting in the car to pick up a couple of Blu-rays, not to mention the drive back. While we've faced digital competition from Netflix and others for years, nothing has been as devastating to our business as the ongoing economic downturn. The CEO of the company stated, "Now Family Video is in the process of closing its last 125 open locations around the country." 7. Starbucks. The world's biggest coffee house chain has been on a roller coaster ride in recent years. It closed over 300 underperforming stores in 2020 and 2021, and then closed them back down again, as it failed to predict shoppers' changing habits and faced a myriad of supply chain issues that impacted everything from the supply of oat milk to plastic cups, straws, and paper packagings. Since the beginning of 2022, Starbucks are in the process of closing an additional 200 stores while transforming others into drive-through and curbside pickup options. The chain is currently going through a restructuring that's been keeping investors up at night, given that its growth rate has been slowing down, costs are accelerating and expected to go higher, and Starbucks stocks are being seen as a risky buy right now. 8. Godiva Chocolatier. It seems like the Belgian chocolate maker is facing a bitter end. The company had plans to open 400 new stores in America, but the pandemic and the consistent decline of foot traffic at shopping malls has actually led the cafe chain to close all of its brick-and-mortar stores in the past couple of years. Demand for the in-person shopping experience offered through Godiva's brick-and-mortar locations has waned as a result of changes in consumer shopping behavior, the company told Today Food. Right now, only a few branches are still operating through major retailers like Target and Costco. But retail industry analysts say the company is likely to disappear completely from our economic landscape by 2023. 9. Christopher & Banks. The women's apparel retailer already filed for bankruptcy last year, said it planned to close a significant portion of its brick-and-mortar stores, but as sales remained flat throughout much of 2021, the inevitable happened. The chain was forced to close all of its 499 locations across the U.S. and lay off all its staff members. Right after the announcement, liquidation company Hilco Merchant Resources conducted going-out-of-business sales of 40% to 60% across all stores, and for the first time since 2017, the company actually saw sales booming. But it seemed all too late at that point. Earlier this year, the retailer, founded in 1956 as Braun's Fashions, actually emerged from bankruptcy and reopened some of its shuttered locations. However, creditors say Christopher & Banks is still on bankruptcy watch list, given the impact of the financial distress the company experienced over the past 2 years. 10. Justice. The tween retailer is yet another casualty of retail conglomerate Ascena's billion-dollar debt crisis. Ascena, the owner of brands like Ann Taylor and Loft, filed for bankruptcy last summer, taking more than 600 of its 826 Justice stores down with it. This year, the parent company announced that it would shutter all remaining Justice stores after completing the selling of the brand to Blue Star Alliance, LLC for $90 million. But the slowdown in consumer spending hasn't made the apparel retailer any more profitable, which means that the brand is not likely to reemerge from its liquidation anytime soon. 11. Carter's. Around 200 Carter's store closings are now underway. The children's apparel retailer decided not to renew leases on its less profitable sites. Speaking to analysts, Carter's CEO Michael Casey said that just like many other retail peers, the company has an inventory glut that is not selling at the expected pace. The imbalances between supply and demand mean bad news for earnings this quarter and also spell trouble for Carter stocks, which already plunged by 11% over the past month. 12. American Eagle Outfitters. The decay of the brand mirrors the decay of the nation's shopping malls. The company is closing 250 of its outlets, most of which are mall-based, after revealing a $42 million sales loss in September, causing the company's share to crash 7.4% in a single day. Sales also fell 6% from the previous quarter. Chief Operating Officer Mike Mathias pointed to a slowdown in demand caused by the macroeconomic environment. The retail environment's not pretty right now, added Jefferies analyst Corey Tarlow. Inventories have been elevated. There's billions of dollars of excess apparel inventory that's floating out around, and that's a major problem for brands like AEO. 13. Banana Republic. Just like sister chain Gap, Banana Republic is falling behind in the retail scene. Since foot traffic in its physical stores has been going down for 7 consecutive quarters, the brand is being forced to significantly slim down its brick-and-mortar presence. In August, it announced the closure of 130 stores and said it aimed to double its online sales. But with the rise of sustainable small businesses on online platforms, executives are starting to question whether the brand has become redundant in this saturated apparel environment. 14. Fossil. It's getting increasingly harder for the company to keep doors open after it lost the staggering sum of $96 million. In the last quarter of 2021, Fossil Group, a watch and handbag designer known for brands like its namesake Fossil and Zodiac watches, reported a massive sales loss that reflected its struggles throughout the entire year. Since then, things haven't gotten any better for Fossil, and the brand disclosed plans to reduce its store count by 20% in 2022 and 2023. 15. Express. During the health crisis, no one was really looking for workwear or party dresses. That's why Express took a major hit and has been scrambling to get it together ever since. In 2020, it shuttered 91 stores. Last year, 35 more closed doors for good. As sales continue to miss expectations, it seems like the brand has also entered the list of dying retailers. In May, it announced the closure of 60 more locations in a desperate effort to save $80 million to be able to refinance its growing debt. 16. Paper Source. The Chicago-based retailer was expecting to expand its operation after it acquired 30 shuttered papyrus stores. However, it soon fell victim to the same declining sales that crushed its competitors. Founded in 1983, Paper Source used to sell gift and party supplies, as well as stationery and stamps. It recently filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and revealed plans to close at least 11 stores this year while it tries to secure rental concessions and assess other potential locations for closure, according to court filing. 17. Goodwill. The non-profit thrift store has seen better days. We have had to make difficult decisions for economic reasons, explained Mike Keenan, president and CEO of Goodwill Industries of the Greater East Bay. After the pandemic hit, customers started to get understandably wary of second-hand items, and the chain saw sales collapse overnight. As a result, it's still laying off employees, closing dozens of locations along the West Coast to rebalance its operations. 18. Michaels. The arts and crafts retailer saw its shares hitting rock bottom last year when earnings reports missed investors' expectations for 6 quarters in a row. Its stocks dropped 65%, and from that point on, the company is barely staying afloat. Even before the health crisis, Michaels faced years of declining sales. Now, its survival is being threatened by larger players such as Amazon or discounters such as Walmart and Dollar Tree. 19. Bloomingdale's. The higher-end store chain was founded in 1861 by the Bloomingdale brothers, and in 1995, the company was acquired by Macys. From that point on, the fall of the department store has only accelerated, and the relevance of stores like Bloomingdale's is being put into question. The company is getting replaced by a new store concept to be able to stay in business, and that's according to the Chicago Sun-Times. Macys is shutting down dozens of Bloomingdale's locations as part of a 3-year plan to improve productivity and as a chance to see if the format of its stores could actually adapt to the times or not. 20. Guitar Center. Founded in 1959, the country's biggest retailer of musical instruments filed for Chapter 11 restructuring in 2020 in one of the biggest bankruptcies of the year. With a $1.3 billion debt load, the retailer and stakeholders reached a restructuring agreement that slashes its debts by almost $800 million, but the company is not out of the woods yet. Guitar Center has been financially struggling for nearly a decade as it faces challenges to build an online shopping experience to rival other retailers. The current economic downturn is still compounding those problems and forcing the chain to shutter nearly 300 brick-and-mortar locations across the United States. 21. Stein Mart. Since 2015, the discount department store has not turned a profit. Sales have plunged by more than half in the first quarter of 2020, while debt grew to nearly $200 million. Stein Mart is amongst the chains that fell into pandemic bankruptcy, and it is now doing going out of business sales at all of its approximately 280 stores that are expected to close for good by mid-2023. 22. Century 21. After its insurance provider declined to pay a $175 million claim to cover interruption to business due to the burst of the health crisis, Century 21 went under, filed for bankruptcy in September 2020. The company closed all of its stores on the East Coast, reopening only one location in New York ever since. Given the sharp decline in its retail footprint, Century 21 may die before our eyes before anyone actually notices. 23. Designer brands. This is certainly not the best environment for flashy footwear. With remote working far more common than before the pandemic, demand for designer brands products is significantly down. The company said it's now considering closing all of its 65 U.S. stores. That would make sense to close upon their natural lease expirations over the next few quarters, it said. 24. Nordstrom. Luxury department chain Nordstrom disclosed plans to axe all of its least profitable stores in the U.S. in an attempt to slim down its operating costs by $150 million. With foot traffic down 9% compared to the same period last year, the chain has recently lowered its revenue projections for this year from 8% to 5%, highlighting the extent of its financial troubles. 25. Kroger. Customers are mourning the demise of the rapidly disappearing supermarket chain. After merging with sister chain Albertsons in an attempt to survive the retail apocalypse, the company announced in September it'll start shuttering 400 stores in the next year. The reason for the closures are declining sales and negative profit, it said. The downfall of all of these celebrated brands has one underlying common reason: an exhausted economy that's failing to support the growth of its businesses and to give them the conditions to thrive. At this point, U.S. consumers are extremely overwhelmed with the highest prices they have seen in decades. Their wages cannot support consumption. In fact, people can barely afford to pay for their most basic necessities, which means that the pain these companies have felt so far is merely a fraction of what's coming over the next few quarters. Put it simply, as our purchasing power collapses, so do our businesses. And the mass extinction of retailers has only just begun. Thank you for watching. Please share this with friends and family, and we look forward to your comments.